Hi everyone, welcome to the Green Room, a place where theater people come to discuss their practice, process, and profession. I'm Jeremy Dobresh, director/playwright, and today we're doing our 5-4 segment, 5 questions for John Rando. So, who's John Rando and why are we talking to him? John is a director whose credits include The Wedding Singer, Neil Simon's The Dinner Party, and more encores musicals than you can shake a stick at. But John is best known for his Tony Award-winning direction of Urinetown. If you haven't figured it out by now, John is a master of comedy, and Urinetown particularly changed the theater landscape. First of all, it paved the way for other hugely successful irreverent musicals like Altar Boys, Avenue Q, and Spelling Bee. Second of all, it changed the relationship between commercial producers and festivals. Whereas the Fringe Festival used to be a place to do avant-garde, weird, downtown, offbeat shows, suddenly commercial producers were flocking down to try to get the next commercial hit. This gave rise to new festivals like NYMF and SPF and really affected their programming, allowing the festivals to kind of take the place that a traditional off-Broadway theater company used to have. John's latest project is Toxic Avenger, which just opened at New World Stages and is hilarious. New World Stages, by the way, is also the home of the show we featured on our first episode, Rooms, a Rock Romance. John agreed to sit down with us and do a 5-4 segment at New World Stages.
I'm John Rando. I'm the director of the Toxic Avenger. I'm sitting in the Tox box, which is our balcony to our show down there. The show is a musical, and the basic story, the Toxic Avenger. He goes on a rampage and just tries to clean up Tromaville by getting rid of all the toxic waste and find true love.
What do you find to be the difference between directing big Broadway musicals and then smaller, low-budget shows at places like TheaterWorks USA?
I like to do a variety of things. You know, no matter how large or small the budget is, there is always a sense that one needs to be frugal. You have to be wise and responsible. And I obviously, you know, I'm a firm believer that in theater, the boundaries, so the borders, so whether it's financial or the proscenium, those limitations kind of require, you know, inventiveness, allow you to be artistic within the confines of that. That's really very important to me, and you know, how to be as witty as one can and clever as one can, given the elements that you know are available to you.
In an irreverent show, how do you keep both the actors and the audience invested?
The Toxic Avenger is written complicatedly and challengingly because of this marvelous idea that there's only a company of 5 and that 2 of those actors play essentially 30 roles. At a certain point, Nancy Opal has to play these 2 characters at the same time, on the stage at the same time. And so the play demands this kind of crazy sort of attitude about how to approach it. We were sorting out that as we developed it, what are we going to do? How are we going to do these changes, and how do they reflect the acting on the stage? Actor instincts are really useful in this situation. You try to create an environment in which there's an inventive nature happening all around, so that people are always thinking about the tone correctly and therefore inventing with you. And then it really is a lot of instinctual things that I see that I think, oh, that could work.
Other than the jokes on the page, how do you create a fleshed out comedic world on stage?
Here's sort of a little story about how things got developed. When we first did the production, I had the cop sort of pretend to talk on a walkie-talkie, and I thought it would be funny and also kind of apropos if he's talking and he makes his own sort of sound effect for the walkie-talkie. He makes a kind of static sound effect. But we knew it was sort of in the wrong place. After Toxic murders, rips apart these 2 bullies, and then there's a cleanup scene, and that was basically just done by sort of the 2 guys come out dressed as stage crew guys. And you know, we had this idea, Joe and I, that, oh God, it'd be great if we could get the cop out there. And then, you know, it sort of morphed into this whole crime scene initiative, CSI investigation, kind of thing. And from that's when we started to use this walkie-talkie idea. And now it's morphed into this kind of fabulous, very, very funny moment. And also really kind of apropos to the style and the kind of weirdness of the show. You're always looking to reimagine and reinvent the humor, but you have to kind of let a lot of different things influence you.
When you direct for encores, how do you create such a full evening of theater with such limited resources and time?
Basically, every experience I've had there, whether the shows include On the Town, Of Thee I Sing, Face the Music, Do Re Mi, The Pajama Game, Strike Up the Band, a couple of others too, Damn Yankees. First of all, Encores gives you a first-class orchestra, so you have such great tools. But it is a limited experience because it's an 8-day rehearsal period, which is a challenge. And the big requirement is that there be an orchestra on stage, so it always becomes a very challenging thing for a director how to sort of tell the story, through minimal ways. One of the biggest lessons, because truly my first musical theater experience was at Encores, which is like I can't so amazingly honored that the first thing I ever did was at an Encores in terms of musical theater. And having David Ives, whose work on most of the Encores in terms of honing the book. One thing you learn very quickly about musicals at Encores is that, it's 3 to 5 pages of book, and then you have to get to the next number. It requires that in terms of it being in a concert form. So that's been a big help in terms of how to help in applying it to other musicals that I work on now. And I'm very fond of the people involved there, the music directors, Rob Fisher, Paul Giamagnani, Rob Berman. It's a great group there. So, not to mention Jack Fertel, who's the artistic director now. But when I first got there, it was Kathleen Marshall. Prior to that, Walter Bobby. These are great people that really understand the American musical heritage.
How do you approach comedies differently than more dramatic shows?
I think that's such a challenging and good question, and I don't really have an answer for it. I think with the Toxic Avenger, there is a certain quality and tonal shape to the show that is serious drama because of the kind of heightened stakes, unbelievably heightened stakes. A guy gets thrown in a toxic goo and he returns as a monster. This kind of crazy, horrible thing that happens to him. At the same time, it's just completely off the wall and funny.
Son of a bitch! That hurt!
So when I work on a show like this, I do try to take it as seriously as I possibly can. And I think that helps in terms of shaping the tone. I really think that with this piece too, there's a kind of patina of what I call sort of, it's like a comic book or maybe even graphic novel kind of sensibility about the writing and therefore the design work and therefore the acting work. By the time you're midway through the show, you realize, this is such a heightened reality that is not unlike that genre. And that's really where I'd hope that we would arrive, as a kind of graphic novel comedy musical.
My thanks to John Rando. Next time we hope to be sitting down with Rosalind Coleman, who's currently appearing in Zooman and the Sign at the Signature Theater. Now before we go, I want to leave you with a thought, and since John has worked with Neil Simon, I thought we'd do one from him. He was talking about how so much of playwriting is about being open to happy accidents. His example was the fact that Felix Unger can sign his letters F.U. Neil Simon didn't name him Felix Unger to make that joke, but when he realized what he had, he used it. So, how about you? Ever worked on a show where a happy accident made its way on stage? Ever found one yourself? Please let us know by leaving a comment at jeremysgreenroom.com. You can also friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and/or RSS us so you'll know when the next episode is posted. We want to hear from you because theater is interactive and we urge you to participate in the process. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time in the Green Room.